I thought I would add my 2 cents to the discussion on anarchy. And one concept that I think is very important in considering all this, and Bowden sort of touched upon this in his video, is the fact that we sort of live in a real society that's active. And I guess if I were to find a word to describe what we live in, it's an evolved society. That is, we don't get to start over, start from zero. We have to evolve from where we are, and we have to do it kind of one step at a time. We can't just wholesale change our state instantly. Some people have tried and really failed. The problem with trying to do that is you end up destroying a lot more than just a state. And those kinds of violent revolutions tend to produce kind of a very unstable environment, which lends itself to power grabbing, power vacuums, that sort of thing, which yields totalitarian states and other undesirable outcomes. So I think the idea that we want something that's evolved, I think that's sort of built into it. We get something that's evolved whether we want it or not, because this is just part of the process. We set up some rules, and certain agencies, entities, organizations begin to gain power. All right, so I'm going to use the term power very loosely. I'm not going to try and define it. I'm going to assume you kind of know what it means. It's money, communication, military force. Using coercive force is only one kind of power. There are other types of power, but once you set up the rules of a society, certain agencies and organizations and individuals will gain power within that society, and they very much determine the direction of society. So to a large extent, one of the problems with anarchy is I don't understand how we keep power from becoming sort of accumulated by organizations or individuals. So I mean, certainly when there's the government accumulates a certain amount of power, but that's, in a democracy anyways, that's under some degree of control of the people who are affected by it. Okay, other types of organizations aren't accountable to the people in any way. Like a monarchy, of course. Monarchy, you could argue possibly in some way they could threaten violent overthrow, but other than that, people living as subjects under a monarchy don't have much to say about what goes on. So what I don't understand is, in an anarchy, the idea is we want to give all the power to individuals. And I mean, that sounds like a very lofty ideal. I'm fully in favor of empowering individuals, but what I don't understand is how we manage. Who is going to enforce that? Who has the power to enforce the empowerment of individuals, if not the government? Okay, and in the absence of the government, what other organizations are going to come to power that are going to try and take power away from individuals? Corporations or churches or unions. So the idea that we have rules of a society. Those rules, when played out, when using game theory, and they're played out, they create organizations of various kinds that rise in power, and their power will, of course, come into conflict with the power of individuals. So I don't see how anarchy can last. It seems like something that once you set that up, you lack the rules and the enforcement to keep it in anarchy. It doesn't seem like it's something that's sustainable, because when you remove that power, you create a vacuum, and that power is going to get filled somehow through some other organization. And it may be through an organization which is very tyrannical, which does not have lots of feedback from the people who are affected by it. So, government is a powerful organization. At least in a democracy, people have some say over it. People are able to participate in it. It's not closed, So, I mean, I'm not in favor of huge government, but I think in a lot of cases government is in the position to limit the power of other organizations, like, for example, corporations. Now, currently we have a situation where corporations and government are very much in collusion with lobbyists and everything else, and the government by itself can't fix that. What the corporations need is some counterbalance, and that counterbalance could be a union, for instance. But I also think that corporations are too powerful. They've been granted the status of personhood by the courts, which I think, for any entity which is not mortal, I think giving them the same rights as mortals is a big mistake, because that makes them very, very powerful. And they can do all kinds of stuff in private because they've got privacy rights, because they're considered persons. I don't believe that social organizations are entitled to that level of privacy. I think they have enough power that we need to maintain some sort of transparency. The idea being is that we can only try to avoid being succumbing to the power of organizations if we know where it's coming from, and to a large extent, information and knowledge is power, and the way we empower individuals is by giving them the information about these organizations. So these organizations need some level of transparency so that individuals have some means of counteracting their power, right? So anyways, I'm not an anarchist. I don't see how it can be sustained. I don't see how we get there. I don't see how we sustain it. All right. I'm still very much a progressive, and I appreciate the sentiments of not wanting to use coercion, and I think where it's possible to avoid coercion, we should. But in some cases, it is unavoidable. I think paying taxes is a very good example. I don't see how any society can survive without taxes. To me, it just seems impossible. So, anyways, thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.